Hey guys, Ed from Paranormal Link, Ohio here, back at it again with another podcast episode. We are staying with the crazy, haunted places and the conspiracies behind them. Tonight we are going to talk about Chernobyl. Yes, Chernobyl, the big disastrous nuclear explosion that might not have happened if some higher up Soviets was listening to their professionals. So, the city of Chernobyl lies about 90 kilometers from Ukraine's capital, Kiev. It's an ancient site, originally part of the land of Kievan, Russia. The Federation of Slavic tribes, for whom modern Russians, Belarusians, and Ukrainians all claim descent. In modern times, the city was chosen as the site of the first nuclear power plant in Ukraine, then part of the USSR. The plant had 4 nuclear reactors, and on April 26, 1986, reactor number 4 blew up during a test. The Soviets were initially reluctant to make the disaster public, like they always were, but had no choice when nuclear reactors 1,000 miles away in eastern Sweden began recording radiation levels 10 times higher than normal. Fire from the explosion had sent flames and fumes of highly radioactive fallout across the USSR and Europe. Eventually, almost 500,000 people would come to be involved in the cleanup operation, which would last for months and cost an estimated 18 billion rubles, back when a ruble was equal to a US dollar, playing its part in the eventual bankruptcy of the Soviet Union. Chernobyl was the most disastrous nuclear power plant accident in history. It wiped out 2 cities, and even now the full extent of the casualties isn't known. Most of the first responders died that night, with many more over the subsequent weeks and months. Their efforts, however, were arguably the most invaluable in modern history. They succeeded in preventing a second explosion and could have destroyed half of Europe. They died so that we may live. Near Chernobyl is the city of Pripyat. Founded in 1970, it was the 9th Soviet nuclear city, built to accommodate the workers at Chernobyl plant and their families. At the time of the disaster, Pripyat had a population of just under 50,000. Now both towns are surrounded by an exclusion zone that spans 2,600 square kilometers, put in place to prevent anyone from wandering into the contaminated area. Official permits are required to enter the zone. At the edge of the zone is a checkpoint manned by 5 armed guards. 2 orange and white barriers of the type used in car parks block the road. Anyone wishing to enter must have their bags searched and identification checked, to be ticked off against a list of those granted permission to proceed. Inside the area is divided into 2 buffer zones, the first of which covers 30 square kilometers. The second inner sector is 10 square kilometers and stretches around reactor number 4. Chernobyl once had a population of 14,000. Now it's just 688, mostly older people who returned after the cleanup. The remaining reactors continued to operate for years after the disaster, the last closing in 2000. Workers are still allowed inside reactor 4, but their time inside is limited to protect them from radiation. Don't drink water from the river, our guide Yagavny instructed them. Somewhat needlessly, the Geiger counter, a device that measures radiation, reads 0.12 microsieverts. On average, a person safely absorbs about 3.65 millisieverts. There are 1,000 microsieverts to a millisievert. Merely by living in the brick or concrete building, we get into a van to drive to Chernobyl. After passing through the village of Zalicia, now almost entirely covered in thick shrubbery. Now guys, I'm telling this, my research from what I read online and from what I read in books. And this is actually a story from someone that actually went to Chernobyl and was able to see everything in Pripyat. We arrive and go immediately back in time. The sign at the city's outskirts reads simply, Chernobyl. Written vertically, it is accompanied by the USSR's hammer and sickle. The Geiger counter now reads 0.22 microsieverts. Reactor 4 is a mere 18 kilometers away. We drive down the city's main road, Soviet Street, and pull up at a square. Yevgeny says we need to park carefully. The traffic police there are so bored, they hand out tickets. Sorry, I can't read. Again, guys, I can't read my own writing. They hand out tickets just for something to do. The square is immaculate. There is not a single piece of litter on the ground. The silence is near total. The streets seemingly scrubbed clean of all humanity. The odd vehicle drives past. At one corner of the square is a statue of Vladimir Lenin, his left hand clutching his lapel, his right hand into his pocket. In 2015, Ukraine introduced a series of laws designated to decommunize the country. Soviet street names were changed to Ukrainian ones. Statues of Lenin were torn down, but near nothing has changed. Why has no one torn this Lenin down? An Australian visitor asked. Why would you bother? Replied Yagavani. Further down the road is a memorial park, rows of signs, each of a simple white rectangle, bearing a name bolted to a pole, stand like headstones in memory of the 97 villages that ceased to exist after the disaster. For many of those early days, the evacuation brought back traumatic memories. Buses arrived to take away. No one told them what was happening or where they were going. Or, for some, it was the Nazi occupation all over again. We had the forest at over 70% of the exclusion zone. With no one there to look after them, foliage slowly burst through buildings and roads to almost completely smother what was once a teeming urban center. As human life has declined in Chernobyl, however, animal life has increased. Bears, deer, lynx, wild boars all roam here. But they are not for hunting. Each is little more than a vessel of irradiated meat. In the forest is what once was a kindergarten. When they approach, a doll with 3 limbs missing lies a few feet from a sign warning of radiation. The scene is Chernobyl in miniature. Human existence almost instantly snuffed out by the most potent force humanity has ever unleashed. Inside is a vista of decay, seemingly ancient but alarmingly timeless, like some latter-day Pompeii. Only the rotting floorboards, thick layers of dust and misting metal have changed. In the kindergarten's dormitory, there are rows of bunk beds. Some still have toys on them. Children's drawings are taped to the walls. On the floor lie several tiny shoes. The giant stainless steel sarcophagus that covers reactor number 4 gleams in the dappled sunlight. We are now in the inner buffer sector, just 100 meters from where it all began. The sarcophagus was built to cover an older one, built from concrete, and was installed late last year. It weighs 37,000 tons, and the Statue of Liberty could comfortably fit inside. It's the largest movable building in the world. Next to the reactor stands an old building. Its external fire escapes seem connected to it by rust alone, and the steps are surrounded by splashes of reddish brown that have splayed out like blood spatter. Nearby is an artificial lake that was used as a cooling system for the reactors. Now it is filled with fish, grown far beyond their normal size. Normally they would have been caught and eaten, but it is simply not possible. They are not fish, says Yagavani. They are swimming pieces of radioactive waste. As we depart, I take a final look at the forests that cover most of the road and the area, and I finally understand that this is what nuclear holocaust looks like. It's not the flat, arid wastelands of Mad Max. It's the Earth, eventually brushing back into life, wresting back control, mankind's stupidity. There's also been many signs of ghosts, apparitions, and multiple paranormal things happening in Chernobyl and Pripyat. It is rife with so much horribleness that it had to stain the area terribly. The amusement park that stands there, the messed up Ferris wheel that looks like it's just falling apart and just decaying, and everything around it just looks so terrible. And I can only imagine what's going on. So I'm going to tell you about the amusement park. It was meant to open May 1st, 1986 for the May Day celebrations in Pripyat, a now abandoned city in Ukraine. Things went awry, though, when the Chernobyl disaster occurred just a few kilometers away 5 days later. So, disaster was considered the worst nuclear power plant accident ever, like I said before. And the things that just... I see images now, like when I was looking up everything, and it just looks like it just stopped in time. And everything is just decaying, like a body would decay over the years. The properties, the buildings, people's things are still there from when that happened. And I just can't understand. I mean, I can, because they all just up and left because, why wouldn't they? They had no idea what was going on. Buses came in and was just taken away from everything. They had no idea what was coming on. What was going on. They had no idea of the rampant, quick death that was coming to take them. I mean, radiation it's invisible. You can't smell it. You can't see it. Nothing. And it's one of the scariest things that anybody could just... It's so terrifying. Because radiation takes you slow, and it stays for a very, very, very long time, and it can still kill you years in advance. A lot of movies have been made over Chernobyl about, how the disaster had happened. There was a TV show on about the disaster of Chernobyl, and what I can't understand, because the Soviet Union liked to hide everything. They didn't want the West to see them as unintelligent. So they would try to hide anything and everything they could before the West could find out what had happened. So, and there's lots of ghosts, and I mean, there's still animals that roam Pripyat and Chernobyl, but they're so whacked out because all the radiation that's inside of them is just making them crazy, and they just go after anybody. So I just think it's crazy, and I think it could have been avoided as long as the Soviets would have listened to their professionals, their scientists. They're saying, "Hey, this is not gonna go well. This is not gonna go well," and it's, I don't know. It's just one of the saddest things in history. Not the most saddest thing in history. It's just one of the saddest things in history, and the people that were there had to go through all that, and even to this day, it's still shut down because of the radiation. There has been some ghost hunters that have gone there, and they've caught apparitions. Some of the bravest ghost hunters I could ever imagine, because that's radiation, man. That's bad stuff. They got mutations out there because of the radiation. They've seen creatures out there that no one's ever seen before, and the government keeps it all on lockdown by saying, it's too radioactive. But then some stories come out saying that there's people that live in Pripyat and Chernobyl. So how are they living there, and how are they not died yet of, just like what I just read? There were some people that came back after they cleaned up everything in the 80s and the 90s. They're still alive. But this one area is guarded by armed guards. So what are they keeping there? Creatures come out at night that no one even has ever seen before. People talk about it that have gone to Pripyat and Chernobyl, and they see these things, and they come home and they're just terrified. Some people see things, giant dogs that come after them. So you take it as you want. I think Pripyat is just the perfect setting for the paranormal. I think something is there. I do believe it's haunted from all the people that died in such a tragic, terrible way. And I think there's something there that the government or Russia or Ukraine or whoever it is hiding there. So, be that as it may, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. I wanted to stay on this thing with the haunted places around the world. And Chernobyl is no different than any other one that I have mentioned. There was lots of murder there because nobody listened and the reactor blew. So innocent people died, especially the first responders that had no idea what was going on. They all eventually died from radiation poisoning. A lot of people died from cancer. The explosion, the fire, everything, it just killed so many people. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode, guys. Thank you so very much. And I am live tonight at 10 p.m. on Facebook. if anybody would like to be on there and check us out. And again, I hope you all have a good night, and you will hear from me tomorrow night. Thanks. Bye, everybody.